Alright, let's do another Balisong review, shall we? This time I'm going to be taking a look at the Maxace Banshee. So this is the Banshee right here. This is a steel liner G10 scale knife. It runs on bearings and it is full length. I think the handles are just a smidgen longer than my replicant. Now this is Maxace's, I think, 7th Balisong, maybe 6th. I don't know if I'm leaving one out or counting one twice. But needless to say, this is not Maxace's first rodeo when it comes to Balisongs, and I think that definitely shows in the finished product. So let's just talk about where I began, right? I bought this knife at flsbalisongs.com. That guy, I think he's like an importer. He just imports a bunch from China and then he ships them out and sells them directly from his store. Pretty basic. I think his Reddit name on the Balisong subreddit is Blowback, I want to say. Either way, very reputable guy. I got exactly what I paid for. Not a scam or anything. But the buying process for this knife was actually sweet. I'm not used to the amount of choices that I had here. So there's 4 different handle styles that you could pick from. Handle colors, I should say. So you could get red, black, jade, or white. Now I opted for white because I'm trying to relive a white replicant fantasy. I've never actually got one, but you know, maybe one day. But on top of that, there's also 3 different blade styles. You can get the drop point, the tanto, or the bowie. I got the bowie right here. It's not on the knife right now, but I'll talk about that later. Let's see. This knife also comes with some extra stuff that, you know, it's not included in every Balisong, so I thought I'd mention it. So as you can see, it comes with a pocket clip included, which is nice. This pocket clip, it's not like the best or anything. It's kind of big, but it sits really flush against the handles for the most part, so it doesn't really inhibit flipping much. So I just left it on to, you know, confer which handle's the bite handle easier. It also comes with a latch if you're into that. It's a spring latch, so I mean, everybody's going to take the latch off. Almost like 90% of the people that buy this are going to take the latch off. But you know, if you're into some kind of latch fetish, then I guess a spring latch is preferred to a floppy latch. So they got that if you're into that. It's in the little bag. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, duh. Comes with this thing. This fucking tuning fork, which is the trainer blade for this knife. You know, I gotta give Maxace a little bit of props for going outside the box, because most people, you know, most Balisong trainers, it's just the blade like outline with some holes punched in, and then they're just like, all right, send it. You know, it's pretty uncreative for the most part, with maybe the exception of like the Squid Mako, because it has a little shark on it, you know. But this, man, Jesus Christ, this is out in left field. The tuning fork does make some ringing noises. You can't hit it against metal objects and then hold it up to your ear, and then yeah, it rings. So that's kind of cool. But let's talk about what you probably want to know from this knife, which is how does it flip? How does it feel? So basically, there are 2 flipping experiences that you can have with this knife. There's the first, which is very okay, and then there's the second, which is above average. Right? I don't think like this is a pretty good flipper, but I don't think it ever really ventures in the over the above average tier. You know what I mean? I'd still choose a replicant over this. I'd still choose a lot of knives over this. But it's really not bad. I would definitely say it's above average at its best. So let's talk about the okay experience that you can get. So if you do not order the aluminum spacers, which I definitely did, they come anodized in red or blue. They cost $15. But if you didn't order those, you will be stuck with their stainless steel spacers. And that shit is heavy as fuck. Your handles will become anchors. And in my opinion, it really kind of diminished a lot of the flipping experience A lot of tricks were extra hard to do. Like, for example, chokers with the stainless steel spacers were almost impossible. I had to like relearn how to do a choker with the weight, and then even then it looked really sloppy and it wasn't any good. So definitely, if you have the chance to pick one of these up, definitely go with the aluminum spacers. I've even heard some people got barrel spacers from USA Knife Maker or from Tac 2 and put it in here, and that does a lot to reduce the handle weight regardless. But yeah, with the aluminum spacers, it's definitely so much of a better knife. And let's talk about why I have this tuning fork on instead of the Bowie. I mean, it's not for aesthetics, because the Bowie looks dope, man. I really wish this flipped much better, but I think the Bowie and at least the clip point suffer from this, which, you know, all the weight is near the base and a lot of weight is taken off near the end. And I honestly, you know, I did a comparison flip between this trainer blade and the Bowie. I took it, I put the blade on for each one, and I fooled around with it for a couple days, and I consistently liked the tuning fork better, which is a real shame, because like I said, the Bowie looks so sweet, man. But I feel like just looking at the other knives, like the Tanto, it definitely gets skinnier as the knife gets longer. I can kind of see that a little bit with the clip point as well. So I think, you know, the balances on this knife are not exactly prime. But what this knife lacks in balance, it makes up for with just really fucking smooth handles. Like, the bearings are just so free moving. It's really nice. The play really isn't bad either. I could probably tune this a little bit better. I actually lost my Torx bit, so yikes. There is, at least on this, there's a little bit of tap. Although I had it on the Bowie blade, I could tune it without tap, and I think it's just because the tuning fork is overall thicker, like a thicker piece of metal than the Bowie blade. So this succumbs to just the lightest amount of tap, really, but I don't think it sounds bad. As far as balances go, I think with the tuning fork and the aluminum spacers, this is it's pretty dead set neutral. It's hard to really say either way if it's blade heavy or handle heavy. It feels pretty damn neutral. Another thing is I'm just talking about flipping stuff here now. The spine on the tuning fork is chamfered, and it's also chamfered on the Bowie Blade 2, which is a really nice touch. I much prefer that. I remember I had a Ham Spectre, and that wasn't chamfered at all. That was just kind of left, and I felt like that was a little bit, you know, they could have done that for such a high-end knife. Also, something I feel like I need to mention, the handles on this knife are extremely fucking blocky. Like, they look rounded. They are chamfered very lightly. See if I can get this up here. It's a very light chamfer on the edges. There is some texturing on the mid handle, which I think is just nice for, you know, it feels a little grippy in the hand, but it doesn't really do a whole lot to the flipping one way or the other. But if you like blocky knives, like severely blocky knives, then this might be for you. Definitely fanning does not feel as well. It doesn't feel as good as, you know, if the knife was more round. Choker's okay. I really like how it twirls just because it's so bouncy. All in all, like I said, a much above average flipper. Now let's see, what do I got here? Let's go and do a quick pro and con list, then I'll just end it out, because this knife does have some things I don't like about it that I haven't really mentioned yet. I've mostly just been singing good stuff about it. So, pros and con list. Let's start with pros. Pro number one, the cost. This knife is 150 bucks, 165 if you buy the extra spacers. And for that money, a smooth bearing knife with all the extras, good tolerances. Definitely, that is a value king right there. So yeah, good price. Number 2, I would say is, let's see. I feel like I had like a mental list before I started this. Oh yeah, number 2, options, customization. So, like I said, you can change the handle colors, you can change the blade style, you can change the blade finish, and regardless of what you're going to get one of these tuning fork blades. But still, overall, that level of customization is something I'm really not used to, trying to hit drops from places like BRS, or if you can actually hit a HOM drop or have the money to do that shit. So yeah, really nice customization. And then I guess Pro 3 could be the flipping for the flipping experience. I think this is actually a pretty good flipper. I mean, it's got nothing on some of my all-time favorites like the Rep and the Squid, but it's really nice to switch it up, and it's just a completely different feel. Definitely kicks the TAC 3's ass, really, for a really good bearing knife. But let's move on to some cons. So when you get this knife, it is not going to be Loctited, which a lot of people prefer, and I'd like that as well because I wanted to change everything on it anyways. But when you take the knife apart, you'll start to realize that all these body screws are not ubiquitous. The screws for the Zen pins actually have a slightly bigger top to them. So if you try to put these screws over here, then you will not have a good time. They won't work. So when you're taking this knife apart, just save yourself a headache and set the Zen pin screws in their own section. Set them aside off from all the other body screws, because they look they look identical. I couldn't tell you just by looking at this that these are actually just a hair bigger. I feel like they should have just used the same screw. I mean, not a big deal. Let's see, another thing about the screws that I would consider a con is there's just so fucking many of them. Taking this knife apart took a while just because I have to unscrew and rescrew everything. It's not like the douche or the trap code where I got a pivot screw and a body screw or two on each side and then I'm done. This is a lot of screws. And then I guess con number 2, I think, is there a con number 2? I don't know. This knife's pretty solid. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty much the only con. I feel like the balances could be a little better, with maybe a different blade style and maybe different spacers. But as far as the value that you're getting for the money here, I'd say this is a definite buy if you have the chance. All right, now I'm just flipping. All right, I'll see you guys later.